Content warning! This podcast contains bones, blood, smut, and swear words.
Before we get into the good shit this week, we wanted to remind you that we have a Patreon. For just $1 an episode, you get extended games, brand new content, access to our notes and murder boards, and much more. So if you would like to be part of Hannah's dream to build a full, edible, miniature dribble, you can head to patreon.com/frontline5th or follow the link in the show notes. Okay, now back to that sweet, sweet Bone Zone action.
Act 1. Welcome, penitents. Hello and welcome to the Frontline 5th, a Lock Tomb podcast where a couple of delightfully naive teacher's aides explore the Lock Tomb series for the first time, while a couple of dried-out bone witches cackle over how little they really know. We're currently reading Nona the Ninth by Tamsin Muir, and this week we are stopping hearts, but only in a cute romantic way, in chapter 21 and John 9:22. I'm this week's host, Hannah, and I'm always poring through other people's words to find secret messages that they were for sure intending to send to me. So this week, I am joined by fellow Bone Witch Marie, and of course, our two sweet little nothings, Brooke and John. So say hi, everyone. Say hi.
Hi!
Hi.
Hello.
So this week, instead of a question about your lives, I thought we'd make up some code words so that we can communicate when we're under duress. So, so here's some things we might need like a code for. So what is our code word for danger?
Oh, I've got one. When anybody asks me, how are you doing? I say, living the dream.
Okay, so at this point, anytime someone says living the dream, you duck and cover. We're all in on that?
Yes.
You're ready? Okay.
Yep.
Whoa.
Yep.
What's our all clear word?
YOLO! No, what was your version?
It was Yolam Titan, which is you only live as many times as it takes to achieve nirvana.
Yeah.
You lammed into him. I don't think you can drop that into casual conversation.
Okay, so we know from these week's chapters, very important to have a code word that means important resource, help me come and get it. So what do we do if, for instance, we find like a bunch of really good stickers or a heated swimming pool, or I'm trying to think about other important resources that I would be willing to like dedicate time to. God, I love a hot tub so fucking much. Good wine, though.
Can I get a hot tub?
Hot tub.
Okay, maybe hot tub is our word for the resource, you know?
I think that's correct.
Okay, you find a stash of champagne and you tell your friends, like, can we get this in a sentence?
Can I get a hot tub?
Okay. Obviously, for this crew in particular, it's clear that we need a code word for I'm running 10 minutes late.
I feel like I'm too literal on all these. Coffee break.
No, I feel like you need something that won't casually come up in conversation as much. I feel like coffee break.
And you want something that no one else will know, you know, because it's very important that we keep secret our time delay.
King crab.
What king crab? Oh, I like that. That's phenomenal.
Crab? Where'd you get that from?
I don't know. I was going through like seafood, like rock shrimp and Alaskan king crab. I don't know.
Why?
I have no idea. Mostly because my wife and I don't eat seafood, and so like that would never come up in conversation.
Not abstract enough.
You're safe without it. That's okay. Okay, this is good. We only have 3 more. We need a code word for if you don't want everyone else to know, but you need to tell your fellow podcast hosts you would not believe what happened at work today. I think that's smash burger. Is everything just food?
I think everything's just
is
food. Well, because the next thing that we need a code word for is I found a new podcast.
Yes. Very important. You need to transmit this information rapidly, I think.
And now I've forgotten. What was that specific? It's like that specific, is it Jasper Hill Farms, like cheese that has like the gray line in it? Like in the middle. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like smoky something.
No. Sherry.
I have no
Sherry
idea.
Gray, but I don't even think you're thinking. I think you're thinking of a Cypress Grove ash line.
Brooks and encyclopedic knowledge of cheeses is really helpful here.
You are thinking of Humboldt Fog, by the way.
Humboldt Fog!
God, Humboldt Fog is good. That is a
Which
good
is
cheese.
indeed a Cypress Grove. There
Okay,
we go. Cool.
Sorry. Yeah.
no,
it's such a good fucking cheese.
What?
Okay.
How come cheese?
Because we want food.
Wonderful with word association.
The next one can't be a food thing, okay? This is now what is our code word if we need to like transmit via hidden microphone.
Okay.
I'm not having this argument about Dwayne Johnson's acting prowess again. That's what I'm looking for here.
You just Bruce Willis.
Just Bruce Willis. Ooh, solid. Okay. All right, I am going to make us practice really briefly. Does anyone want to like try out a subtle code worded, dropping some code words that we've come up with here? Do you want to make an attempt?
I was half a king crab today.
I was half a king crab. That's terrible. I was 5 minutes late. That's awful. I also love the idea that we all have to sit there and be like,
Yeah. We need Kira drilling us on these every morning in order for us to get them.
Yes. I'm full king crabbing it all the time, as well as, pretty much generally live in the dream.
Yep.
Nobody ducked and covered. That didn't work.
I'm living the dream here in this hot tub, which is like, I have a very important resource, but it is dangerous. So come get it, but carefully, living the dream in the hot tub.
So many. I think when somebody asks you, how was your day on like a weekday, you can just say, well, I had a smash burger for lunch.
Exactly. And then they're like, dish, tell me more. Okay. I think we did good. It is a little bit possible that maybe
king crab.
We were not cut out for espionage based on this attempt. Maybe subtlety is really not our strong suit. So, instead, let's just podcast. Let's podcast. What were you most excited about in these chapters?
Oh, I don't know about excited about. What struck me this week was the overlaps between Jod and Elon Musk.
Yes.
I mean, between the narcissism and like the your mom jokes.
You're absolutely right.
It just felt like how Elon Musk works on Twitter.
Now I feel that. Anybody else have big thoughts?
So this is, I think, one of the most solid confirmations that God's just a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is
a little bit psychotic, right?
Yeah, a little unhinged, for sure. And then the other thing was the third house skull was like broken or like messed up, and that's incredibly interesting, along with the call out that Tamsin originally wanted to name Coronabeth Canabeth. So
She says nobody should trust me.
I have an alternative explanation for that, which is this is the first reunion of the third house. All of the third house that we met in Gideon is there,
literally all three,
in a really fucked way. Right, because Babs is there, and Ianthe is there, and Corona is there, but Corona is not like fully in lockstep with Ianthe.
It feels like she has her own agenda.
They have different agendas, and like Ianthe and Babs aren't totally there normally.
Babs is there in whatever the opposite of in spirit is. He's
he's there in body. That is exactly what it is.
Babs is there in body.
Just in situ.
Yeah. I also we should we should move on past this, but I find it very interesting actually. The third house skull is very clearly distorted rather than broken. We see a lot of broken skulls in at least in Harrow the Ninth. And this, I went back and looked. It actually is. It looks different than other broken.
It's just
skulls.
funked up. It's not broken. Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird thing going on there. Marie, did you have anything you wanted to talk about in these chapters?
I think that my thing that I was so excited for was to hear basically, especially John's take of.
Sorry, our John or Jod?
Our John.
Okay.
Our John's take of. Come on, love. I was just like, I cannot wait to hear what you have to say about this.
Come on, love.
Even though I already know what it is, which is John saying God's a piece of shit.
He is. I find him so interesting. Our patrons will have heard me attempt and fail to defend the idea that Jod is a really good guy underneath it all. But I do think he's actually a complicated character. I feel like he has some interesting delusional shit going on. Like he thinks he is the protagonist. It's insane to me. My answer this week,
when you are God, you are kind of the protagonist.
I feel like God is barely the protagonist in the Bible. Like there's other people doing shit. He's also there. He's is Gandalf the protagonist? Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about these chapters, largely because I literally just finished reading the book again very carefully, and I'm a little afraid I'm going to spoil shit. So I think we just dive right in, and we should just get into the meat of it. So before we go hard, I think we have a couple memes this week. There is, of course, your mom.
Your mom does bone parthenogenesis? It's so funny.
No, that's really bad. Really
That's
bad.
funny.
And it's especially really bad in the context of somebody's absolute entire world exploding.
Yeah.
It's very
And then
rude.
and then he throws it out there.
Going against all laws of matter.
Oh, yeah.
Your mom does bone parthenogenesis.
Well, and I also think that not Augustine, but A's response to that is absolutely perfection, which is that he's going to kill
I'm
him
gonna kill
someday. Yeah.
I'm going to kill you someday.
Oh, isn't that funny considering Jod later on is just like, the man you were would have been so disappointed or something like that. Was that what he said?
Yeah,
I
you're
remember now.
right. The man you were
What
like
a
wouldn't even
fucking lie.
recognize you. You're like, no, actually, very consistent.
Committed.
He's always wanted to kill you, and he will one day.
Through
He tries.
spiritual transfer.
Yep.
Maybe they're actually kind of the same people, but God, like the mind isn't all like they don't remember it, so God makes them think that they've changed. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that is super heavily implied. Okay. The other meme watch is when they are going through Nona's nicknames from Pyrrha. One of her nicknames is Harry McClary, and I would like you to just click on that link and somebody describe to me what Harry McClary is.
Well, it's adorable, is what
well-known
it is.
series of books from New Zealand author Linley Dodd featuring Harry McClary.
And what is Harry McClary?
It's a dog.
Yeah, it's a cute little dog.
A hairy dog.
He actually looks a lot like Zuko.
who has adventures with other dogs.
Yes. And his arch enemy is the tomcat Scarface Claw. And it sounds like his adventures are mostly going to the park and hanging out with his other dog friends. And I was like,
get
this whole
out.
book, like we've talked about
It
a lot
is
about how
Nona.
it feels like it feels like
Fan
Anne of Green
fiction.
Gables, but actually
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it might just be that we have
Harry
never read Harry McClary, and that this might actually be the entire book is Harry McClary.
So Harry McClary is a Scottish Terrier
Mhm.
and is accompanied by Hercules Morse,
As big as a horse,
Bottomley Potts,
covered in spots,
covered in spots, Muffin McClay, like
a bundle of hay,
Don't know what that means.
Bitzer Maloney,
all skinny and bony.
Wait, Bitzer, not Blitzer, right? Bitzer.
Bitzer,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I got it confused with the reindeer. And Schnitzel von Krumm with the very low. Krumm.
Crumb.
Schnitzel von Krumm.
Schnitzel von
'cause
Krumm.
He has a very low tum.
He's a dashhund. Yeah.
A Dachshund.
This is amazing. And I also... I feel like Nona would describe dogs this way, as having a very all skinny and bony, like a bundle of hay covered in
Oh.
spots. Like,
Hannah, you can explain this to it. It says, like most of Dodd's books, it is written in anapaestic, like a peon, anapaestic.
I actually don't know
verse,
anapaestic. That one's new for me.
though it breaks
metrical
into a
foot.
more urgent trochaic form when the
So-
dogs encounter the cat.
Trochees are strong weak. Anapest looks like oh goodness, 2 short, 1 long. Huh. I thought that was
Give me a word that is anapest. Too short.
actually
one long.
Anapest is.
There you go.
So there you go. Okay. How
And so
fun.
it's trochee, huh?
Don't we love poetic feet?
Scanton.
We love poetic feet. And with that, it's time to lay our cards
wait.
out on the table.
What about Chemical X? Isn't there Powerpuff
Oh, yeah.
Girls?
Is that a Powerpuff Girls thing?
Chemical X.
Oh my god. Because
Sugar,
literally he says
spice,
element X.
and everything nice.
he
These were
says
the
element
ingredients
X.
needed to create the perfect little girls.
Oh my god.
I just
Wait,
I don't know. I
what?
saw that and I immediately thought it was Powerpuff Girls.
That I bet it is. That feels way too on the nose.
But it's Chemical X, yeah, and he wrote Element. You're right.
Doesn't matter. I think we should count it. That's way too
Close.
real. That feels I don't know how I feel about that actually. Okay. I mean, it does
It's
make
the
sense.
missing ingredient.
You need
for
sugar,
giving
spice, everything
these-
nice, and a soul. Like
Yes.
All right, people, let's lay our cards out on the table with We Suffer as we present Nona the Ninth, episode 13. My friend had stipulations once, but the teacher put a cream on it. Act 2. You can get the tomb and your honor, and all you have to do is trust a couple of zombies.
This section of Frontline Fifth is safe for anyone who hasn't read past John 9:22 in Nona the Ninth.
Let's recap. Chapter 21 has a distorted third house skull. Calamities comes clean. Why did you put that in small caps?
When I try to when I remember, I put it in caps if it is part of the day. You know, at the beginning of each day, there's like a list of things. And so I put them in directly. So this Calamities comes clean is part of what happens today, according to Tamsin.
Calamities comes clean. Pyrrha sends a message. Back to the Cloak and Dagger.
All right, people. The situation is this. We have just listened in on Corona Beth's touching reunion with her estranged sister in their dead friend's body via a hidden microphone in Corona's earring. Studs, really? Come on. We
Easy
suffer
for you to say.
I relate to this so much. I have a couple of stud earrings, but I am very much a dangly girl, so I am delighted that Corona's on my wavelength.
Oh, I just meant the whole situation, but yeah, earrings too.
We Suffer had sent in Corona. Corona said that she was going to be able to go in, basically undermine Ianthe, get in the door, they'd be able to listen. They were hoping for intel, but everyone got solidly blindsided by the situation. It is entirely unclear what Corona's plans and motivations are, and she has smuggled Judith Deuteros out of BOE captivity and into the barracks. And perhaps worse, Corona gets in the door and is also blindsided, as is all of BOE, by the fact that Pyrrha has apparently switched sides again and is now cooperating with Ianthe. Whew. Thank you. I feel that sums it up. And We Suffer is pissed. She ain't happy. Not happy with the situation. So she's about ready to give the order for something. Storm the building, bomb the building, who knows? And it's Camilla who tells her to slow down. Everything is not as dire as they think. Because actually, Pyrrha sent them a message. And in response to this message, Cam tells BOE to scan for other bugs in the vicinity. Because Ianthe found one listening device, the one that was in Corona's earring, but in fact, Crown smuggled in two. So let's talk about the messages that were sent. And Brooke looks so concerned. Tell me your concern.
I'm just trying to remember how Pyrrha sent them that message.
Yes. So Pyrrha says at one point, kill her, deadweight. And deadweight was the code word for all clear, for everything's good. And she also said, get the fish hook out of the fish, which made total sense when you're getting the earring out of Corona. But fish hook was the code word for important resource. Come and help me get it.
Yeah, cigarettes.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Nona translates it.
So how did they take that to mean it was another listening device?
Well, so I have a theory on that. So Nona's translation of Pyrrha's message is what we said here, right? She said to fall in, that it was safe. And I think she said she found a whole bunch of cigarettes. I'm afraid that's typical.
Because We Suffer just looks so confused about the cigarettes things. And Nona's like, I'm not sure what to say, but I think this is what adults say. I'm afraid that's typical.
And it both works and does not explain anything. So if you go back to the chapter before, one of the things while they're listening to Crown, Camilla actually starts saying, wait, she's trying to tell us something before they encounter Pyrrha. I think that Crown actually was trying to tell them something also. And here's what I have. She kept saying really urgently, Deuteros, promise you're not going to touch Deuteros. You promise you're not going to touch her. And at that time, Camilla said, no, listen to her. She's trying to tell us something. But all Crown said was, she listened to me. I owe her. And for me, given what we know from As Yet Unsent, Judith never fucking listened to Crown. Judith is a terrible listener to anybody. Judith never listens to someone outside of her head. On the other hand, Camilla did. Camilla and Corona actually kind of did join together in grief. So for me, I feel she listened to me, I owe her, is about Camilla. And the other option is that listening, just by saying that, you're saying, she listened to me, don't touch Judith. You know, she's giving these little hints. I'm with you. It's not as clear cut as Camilla seems to. Camilla seems to immediately be like, haha, there is for sure another bug in the vicinity. And there is.
That's cool.
There is. They find another frequency. So
I think there's also something here, which is Camilla understands something about Corona that Ianthe doesn't, which is that she doesn't totally understand Corona, but she does understand that Corona is much smarter and had a much bigger grasp on everything than anybody ever thinks. And she isn't necessarily going to Ianthe just to completely and totally turn like traitor. Like, that isn't why she's going to Ianthe. It's much more complicated in that. It's not just like a cut and dried, like, this is so simple, it's a betrayal. So it makes sense to be like, she has another reason for going in, or at the very least, when she goes in, it won't be completely, like, she won't have totally fucked us by doing this.
Do you think, you genuinely think Ianthe underestimates her sister?
I do.
Yes.
But I also think that it's underestimating is correct and accurate. But on top of that, I am not entirely sure that Corona understands her own motivations. I think she's being pulled in a lot of different directions. I think she's someone who has an absolute dedication to her sister, an absolute dedication to whatever weird plan and agenda she has, and an absolute dedication to helping people in a weird way. And I think it hurts her to have to be pulled in multiple directions. I keep going back to this moment in Gideon the Ninth when she's practicing with a rapier and challenges Gideon, and just like the fervor in her eyes. I think she wants things to be pure and simple and clean and obvious. She would love to be able to be just someone's cavalier. And instead, she's weaving a pretty complex web. All of this means that things need to start moving fast. Calamities swaps into Camilla's body right in front of We Suffer and Pash. This throws We Suffer for a loop again.
Pash isn't in there, are they?
Maybe she's not.
I don't think so.
Okay, right in front of We Suffer, swaps in. We Suffer is actually very cool about this, considering how fucked up everything is, and we are used to seeing Camilla and Pal swap places, but this has got to be a lot for We Suffer.
Yeah,
and
that's got to be very spooky, right? You're the people that level cities just like showed up in front of you.
Yeah, and they've been there the whole time.
And they've been there the whole fucking time.
And suddenly you don't know, like, at what point you were talking to one person versus the other. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. But there's really not time to like freak out about it. And Calamities doesn't give her time. Calamities is basically like, you can think about it as some sort of disorder, but we got to get going. We need to start a negotiation now. If I can get you the body of Gideon Nav, the key to the locked tomb, will you give me the kidnapped sixth house oversight body? And none of this is going to be trivial, right? So Unjust Hope and the Merv Wing still actually have the sixth house contingent. That's bad. We Suffer is pretty sure she knows where they are. That's good. Ianthe, operating in the body of Nibirius Turn, is not at full lictor power. That's good. But she can dip out through the river at any time. That's bad. She's in the barracks with bodyguards, bad, and Pira Duvet, who, despite the show she's putting on, is definitely not on Ianthe's side. That's good. But Gideon Nav's body is in those same barracks, and it's kind of hard to tell whether that one's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's a trap.
And everyone needs Gideon's body. Calamities needs to get Nona near to it because he's hoping that it will prompt some sort of like, I can't remember what he called it, pneumatic reversion, but an automatic soul transference. He's hoping that it'll save Nona, who is, as we found out last time, dying. And meanwhile, BOE desperately needs Gideon's body to breach the locked tomb. We assume that's their goal.
Nona's so funny. Every description she goes, now that I've said it once, just so easy. And she's just so cheerful every time. She's like, yeah, I'm dying. Yeah, I don't do anything bad for a few days. Then, like, I got whole days.
I honestly felt that was also very relatable. This thing of like, you're carrying around a secret forever. And then once you say it once, you're like, oh, thank God. Oh, I could say it all the time. Now. I'll tell everybody. Oh, yes, by the way, I'm dying. Yeah.
I know.
So suddenly, boom, the second bug comes back online. And everyone can hear Crown and Pyrrha talking. Camilla is furiously writing down their words, looking for more clues and hidden messages. Is there anything that struck you about this conversation? Or that you want to like highlight in particular?
Corona knows who Pyrrha, that Pyrrha is in Gideon's body, but I don't think that Ianthe knows. Ianthe refers to Gideon as a he constantly, or to Pyrrha as he. I'm
with you 100%. I think Ianthe really thinks that it's some sort of damaged version of Gideon the First, Saint of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't know anything about Pyrrha. I actually don't totally know what Crown knows about the situation because it's not clear to me what BOE knows. Like,
but they've referred to her as Pyrrha this whole time. Like, even in the presence of... am I confused? No, they've I guess the point being they don't know who Pyrrha is. Is that sort of the reason?
All I know is that they, like, tend to refer to Pyrrha as the lictor, which she's not. But I also... Yeah, I don't know. Crown definitely knows more than Ianthe. That's fucking for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, BOE thinks they know, and they obviously don't, right?
Well, because BOE always treats Pyrrha as though she's a lictor because they don't understand what's going on there, and all they know is the Saint of Duty.
Yeah.
So even if they're calling her like her Pyrrha, they still treat her as though she is a lictor.
Yeah. And it's worth noting also that Pyrrha is acting like Gideon, right? Like in front of
Yes.
Ianthe, certainly, right? Like Nona picks up that the voices sounds weird.
Yep.
And she's being very terse.
Yes.
Which
a
is
lot
the way
of like
Gideon operated.
single word sentences. Yeah, I'm with you for sure. The other thing that I find striking about this conversation is how obviously Crown and Pyrrha do not trust one another, like aggressively do not trust one another. And I find this interesting because actually of everyone, they're probably the two characters that where I understand their motivations the least. So I kind of understand why it's hard to be immediately on board with one another because they're sitting there trying to game out a situation with someone who it's not clear what they're going for and whose side they're on. So something about the conversation sparks Camilla's like brain and she feels like another message is being transmitted. So
the pretentious sentence, none can access that body.
That's exactly right. She ends up asking Nona what nicknames Pyrrha uses for her, and there's a whole bunch: Kitty, Junior, Small Fry, Cutie Pie, Lil Bits, Small Cam, Harry McClary, Nums, No, Nope, None, Sweet Nons, Nona Polona, the Big No. And Camilla's going through her notes
so much.
And I think at some point she's like, she should be shot.
Yeah.
She should be arrested.
And it was. See, this is why Pyrrha understands espionage in a way that we clearly do not, because it is so subtle, this thing of saying none can get at that body. But what she's saying is none, as in Nona, can get at that body.
Well, and it's funny because Corona, like, comments on her saying that and she's like, why do you have to sound so fucking pretentious all the time?
Right. She's like, that was a weird thing to say, but she doesn't know what it means. She's just like, that was weird.
Nothing weird about it, right?
Pyrrha thinks that Nona is the key to getting the body of Gideon. Nona's gonna have to be brave, so it's go time, and all they need are a pair of scissors, iris dye, and the blackest clothes you can find.
I'm so excited.
Stealth mission.
Cloak and dagger.
Meanwhile, in a dream, Act 3, guys as careful as me don't have accidents.
Oh, that's me. John, 922. Crack cocaine. I forgot.
So at this point, John is getting scary good at some of this necromancy stuff. He's actually able to extend the cowbone wall even without more cows, doing bone parthenogenesis in defiance of all the laws of matter. But there is still something missing. Still something he hasn't quite figured out. Element X, the soul. And to figure it out, he's going to need to see more people die. Well, good news! A few more faithful show up outside the compound. They're trying to get in, and there are people outside with guns. Shit gets out of hand. Gunfire is exchanged. Bam. 5 people die. And that's how John finds out that fresh deaths were like crack cocaine.
That's not good. That's really not good.
That is a villain origin story.
He takes the energy from those sudden violent deaths, all of that energy, and uses it, boom, to stop the hearts of more than 100 army guys and cops in a kilometer radius. He just reaches out and stops their hearts.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah. Well, the distance too. Does that not freak you out?
He said it's like he's
reach?
talking about the guys in the helicopter, right? And he's just saying like it was like I was right in front of them, and I didn't kill the pilots, just the people on board. You're just like, because I could just see their blood like it was right in front of me. Like, fuck.
And just turn people off, right? Like, and so many at once. And so P is furious because John just murdered a ton of people, including people that she knew. She is like yelling at him until everybody cools her down. He tells her that it was so sudden and chaotic that he forgot to start their hearts again. And P tells him, guys as careful as you shouldn't have accidents.
P's on top of this.
Yeah. And when the person listening to the story, right, the she in all of these dream sequences, when she interrupts the retelling of the story to ask if he ever found out what did happen, he smiles and says, come on, love. Guys as careful as me don't have accidents.
Yeah, piece of shit.
Fucking piece of shit. Agreed.
It's also, even in the telling of it, though, right? So you brought up the fact that he is able to target specific people, not the pilots of the helicopters, but the other people with guns in them. That tells you the precision he was working with. Yeah, exactly. This was not, I blew out everybody's heart within a kilometer radius. It was like a very targeted.
At all.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting because he knows they have guns, right? So that implies that he can maybe see through their eyes. Like he can do part of like the winnowing challenge a little bit, or at least he can like tell where their body weight is. Like there's some aspect of either knowing where bodies are in space or being able to like occupy like some parts of their like mind or vision. Like he doesn't have like echolocation. Like how would he know someone has a gun unless he can like tell from their body weight or their senses or something else?
God, that's fascinating.
It reminds me of you saying that. Like reminds me of the cohorts like Lichter training or whatever, or sorry, Blood of Eden's Lichter training files being like, if you shoot a gun, they can track you down. We're like, what?
Yeah.
But like, John, it's the same thing, right?
You're totally right.
Different interpretation, but gets at the same point. You fire a gun, you're dead.
The other thing that I think is like really important to recognize here is the degree of overreaction. So 5 people on his side die and he kills, like he says, over 100. And that's his reckoning of it, right? As far as we know, it may have been more and he's like softening it. But he just doesn't have measured reactions.
No, but I mean, basically, in the way it's described here at the end when he says, come on, love, guys, as careful as me, don't have accident. Like, it talks about, like, his eyes and expression having absolutely no emotion. Like, this is pure psychotic.
Yeah.
There's no human engagement, no human, like, I'm thinking about when I made you defend that God is just tragically misunderstood on our bonus game. Mm-hmm. And you said something about, like, oh, like, you said that how clearly he had a connection to Harrow and it was sweet and empathetic, that there's true empathy there. And it's just like, fuck that. This guy's got no empathy.
No, he's
I
psychotic.
feel like, oh boy, I just think he just flips on a dime. And it makes me wonder if P had gone farther, had pushed him farther, would he have flipped on a dime with her? Like, how much does it take for him to... Because for the most part, he's quite loyal to his people until he stops being loyal to his people, and then he murders them.
Nobody turns on empathy.
No.
I think he just plays pretend.
Well, I think he likes people as long as they're on his side, but that's because he likes himself, and he sees other people as an extension of himself. And as soon as they stop being that, they're just the other.
Symbol, yeah.
You know, this also implies that God probably knew that they were hiding behind the coats in the entranceway when they try to assess.
Interesting.
Among like a host of other things.
Don't think it bothers him.
He doesn't care
because
who's watching.
Knows, like, when you have that level of power and control, like, does it matter if somebody's just watching? You could wipe their memory afterwards, maybe.
Yeah. We already know. I mean, Harrow did it to herself, so can't be that hard for God. Let's play a game. Interstitial. You always remember these extras' names. So I realize that we do have a narcissistic mass murderer on the loose, but I want to return to something more fun. So there's this great moment in chapter 21 that I like when we're overhearing Ianthe and Corona Beth kind of like reminiscing about their youth. And Corona can remember their tutor's name, Marcus Trio. And you can basically hear Ianthe rolling her eyes as she says, God, you always remember these extras' names.
That's how you build a winning culture. I don't know who's watched the most recent episode or most recent season of Shoresy, but that's like one of the things he does for the hockey team is you got to know the names of all of your supporting cast. Like you got to know the person that drives the Zamboni and you got to know the equipment managers and the janitors and everything else. That's how you build a winning culture. So point for Corona tactic.
Know everybody's family members.
Yeah. But this is like, I mean, it is both like the kind thing to do, but also, as you're saying, honestly, John, it is with intention. It's a thing you can do in order to manipulate people into being part of your group, part of your making them all feel like they belong and they're wanted. So I feel like you could read it either way.
I think this shows that Ianthe is actually a really terrible politician.
Yes,
so
trash.
It's kind of funny that she's like the sole lictor at this point.
I don't think becoming a lictor is all that political.
Yeah, but like, yeah, you're
I think
absolutely
you just
right.
gotta kill somebody.
Political.
He's
Yeah.
going to be a necromancer and kill a cav.
You can certainly imagine that, you know, of the people that you could send out to do a broadcast and bring all of the people together and get BOE to shut down, like Anthe, not your girl. Like Anthe and Mercy would be terrible at this job. But I do actually think that it is high time that these NPCs get their due. So I think we need to really shine a light on these side characters and really build our community, which is why this week we're playing a new game, an Ode to Marcus Trio. So I have asked each of our hosts to come up with a pitch for a TV series centered around one of the side characters in the Lock Tomb series. Any genre. Ready? Let's hear them. Does anyone want to go first?
Okay, I have a very brief outline.
Go ahead.
Tell us, Brooke.
I'm proposing a sitcom based around Born in the Morning's Five Fathers.
I would already watch this.
Because I believe that his 5 dads are not biological fathers to him at all, but rather a gang of bachelors who have found themselves in the circumstance of raising him.
Ooh, fun!
And so I'm pitching the story of how 5 former mercenary men came across an orphaned young boy during their work, and then, you know, they had, in the absence of any other option, they just had to assume the life of co-domestication to properly raise him.
That's beautiful.
Pretty cute.
Can I ask a question? Do they have romantic relationships among them? And then the follow-up is, if so, did they start that way, or is that something that develops in season 2? And then there's breakups and drama.
You know, relationships within a professional group are always difficult, but they do happen. And so I think that is a whole story arc.
Yeah. That's why Brooke and Marie are getting married. But, yeah. Sorry.
Our poor husbands.
I would. No, I actually think that you and I would have a perfectly wonderful, marriage.
I think that's true.
I think that it would be great, honestly.
It would be super healthy.
I would come over for dinner regularly. You would hate it.
Why? Co-domestication. It's in.
All right. John, do you have one you want to pitch?
Yeah, just what was just said would make living in our compound really difficult, I think, for you guys. The eventual frontline 5th bunker.
When we run away from the world in our bunker? Yes. I look forward to the facility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my pitch is for Iglamine to have her own origin story / Game of Thrones style prequel or throwback. We get some
a Brienne of Tarth sort of thing.
Yeah, we get to see how she lost her leg and everything else. We get to see young Crux in there too. I'm sure. We basically get to see the non-decrepit or I guess less decrepit ninth house.
A younger Crux.
Yeah. I'm really
What's
into
a younger
this.
Crux like?
Still acts same age. It's just played by Macaulay Culkin, but same.
Macaulay Culkin's too emaciated.
This is my problem. Is I literally just finished watching the new season of Fallout. That's why I'm thinking about Macaulay Culkin in weird roles.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I really, really like that, John. And I like you pitching it as kind of Game of Thrones stylistically. It should be dark. Mm-hmm. It should be, epic.
Dark
but
and
people die
and,
in bad situations. Yeah.
Grim, dark, realistic, gritty.
Yeah, it's insinuated she was off planet, right?
Yeah, I think she was part of the cohort.
Fighting as part of the cohort. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so. I think she achieves the role of captain, in the cohort.
Dude, are you saying Space Game of Thrones? That's fucking dope.
That is really cool. Space necromancy Game of Thrones. Let's do it.
That's so cool.
I have a pitch that is this is very much, so I want you to think of, even though I've never watched these shows, but kind of like Parks and Rec, community type show, but just a little bit off kilter. I got recommended to watch this show called Fisk, and I think it's an Australian show, and it's about this woman who has to get she's rebuilding her life after a divorce, and she's a lawyer, but she's just so socially awkward, and it's just very funny, and this kind of wackadoodle dry humor. It's just that type of comedy, but then the drier version of it that you get outside of the US. Mm-hmm. So that's what I want. But this is Unjust Hope and his BOE wing. And we get to hear the other side of him always the shit that he says about We Suffer and how annoyed he is, and just like the everyday mundanity and like zany office politics of BOE.
This is a fun, like, contrary take on BOE. Instead of having it be dark and gritty and like war, it is just like workplace where you're like, oh
the
god, we just got to
suddenly are so like,
yes, and like you could have like
a little like Star Wars stormtrooper like
you could
satire.
have such a wonderful running joke of like the same person like you could have like weird like mask and costume mix-ups, but you could also have things where like nobody ever knows that it's Unjust Hope because he's just such a like if you weren't unless he's wearing something distinctive, he's just so nondescript and he doesn't have any sort of like charisma or presence.
Right. He has no gravitas. He's just like an office manager.
He's like literally like middle management, like kind of pudgy office manager. And so like nobody ever knows that it's him. Like he walks in and everybody ignores him until he like has to like always throw a tantrum. Like I feel like that'd be like a really funny like running joke.
I am liking this a lot. I really, yeah, that is fantastic. This is good. Okay, and I have a totally different genre. I thought I would go with reality TV. So I'm not going the like reality Kardashian direction. I wanted to remake Queer Eye for the straight guy, but with the ghastly great aunts Isomorta and Lacrimorta, and so it's blind eyes for the morally decrepit person who needs to be flogged. That's the title of the show. And it literally
oh my gosh, this is so depressing. You'd have to be like high to like watch it and enjoy it because otherwise you'd just be angry. Okay, anyway, keep going.
Yeah. No, so people nominate their friends to be on the show, and then the ghastly great aunts come in and find all of the things that they have done that are sinful and like ascribe punishments to them, take over their clothes and make it all like threadbare black, paint all the walls in their house and like maybe make it really dirty. Maybe they just actually put them in a cave for like a long period of time. This is every episode, by the way. Like,
right.
Yeah. I want this to be the closing act of every season of The Bachelorette, and everybody just gets ranked for how bad they were on the show.
Yeah. See, I was taking it this opposite way. I was thinking of this as like Scared Straight, but for like Manosphere and Crypto Bros. Like they just like grab you and drag you out of your like computer.
Yes, this needed to happen.
Like, forget crypto. Like, go harvest some mushrooms or get your like hands broken. Yeah.
Snow leaks.
Fair enough. Yeah,
You're on snow leak duty.
I mean, and the like motto of the show is suffer and learn, which is the ghastly great aunts. You know, like that's good. I think it's good.
That's beautiful, Hannah.
Oh, thank you. This was I really think maybe are really good at television. Should we start a network?
It's good Hollywood.
In any case, I've clearly got some good TV to go watch. But first, it's time for our rampant speculation. Act 4. My paranoid little pumpkin. Brooke and John aren't just great at befriending dogs. They're also brilliant conspiracy theorists. So, Brooke and John, what the fuck is happening?
Wait. Did we like completely gloss over the fact of Nona being like, I think that's her boyfriend? They're like, no. I can understand why you would be confused. But that's not her boyfriend.
And Nona was so relieved.
That's her sister.
It's good.
Anyway.
Calamity's always hitting the important points here. Okay. I want to talk about Nona John. So, we have a big old thing that happened here, which is that when Nona was in her tantrum, apparently, Cam noticed she was holding it two-handed, but they train one-handed. And after she points this out to Nona, Nona's got like a stream of blood coming from her nose, which isn't that what happened to Harrow every time? The reaction of her brain.
Well, it's her skull stabbing her brain, right, to make her forget, which means there's still some like necromantic. Or maybe she imbued her skeleton with like necromantic. There's some, it's.
Or is this just the continuous like reminder of Gideon triggers this, even though?
Yeah,
in the dream world, she remembered it, right? So that's what happened. Is in the river she figured out that it was Gideon, but she never returned to her body after that. Harrow. I'm talking about Harrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So her body still can punish her for thinking about Gideon.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it's also interesting that like Nona's a little bit out of her mind when she's doing her tantrum.
Yes.
Like she's not entirely all there.
So what is her
Not
being in her
entirely
tantrum?
all there. She zero amount, barely. Not entirely all there.
So the autopilot is still Gideon, which is interesting. At least somewhat.
So that's exactly what I saw. So Gideon surfaces in her tantrum, like at least physically, right? Which is what is typical to a lictor pairing. Normally, Gideon, like the personality and the soul wouldn't be there as an individual, but the muscle memory. So we still have like Harrow in like the form of a lictor, maybe even like a full lictor, right? Where this like subconscious being in the river would mean that the cav only in physical form comes out.
Yeah, there's some weird like throuple soul thing going on. The soul melange that we don't understand. Or melange? Melange.
The gestalt. The gestalt.
Yes.
Maybe. So that brings me to my next question is like, what does Pal think is going to happen? Like, what do you think is going to happen if Nona gets close to Gideon Nab's body? Like, I think there's this idea maybe, so Gideon's body is empty, and in my opinion, I think that Harrow and Gideon's souls are too well entwined to be separated. But Nona is this third occupant. So does that mean that this third occupant ends up occupying Gideon Nab's body? And then that leaves the Harrow Gideon lictor left in Harrow's body? And how does that save anybody?
That's interesting, and also brings up a piece about why do souls leave the body when they die? Is it because like the body is no longer can like be a holistic container for them? And since Gideon's body isn't decomposed, and assuming they fix things, can they just throw her soul back in there? Like like the spikes.
Mm-hmm.
So if they, in theory, have fixed that or sewed up the holes and put her heart back together, can they try to throw the soul back into it? Is that what Pal?
Well, yeah.
Or is it just like your soul intrinsically knows it should be going into the river, and so no matter what?
I think, are you talking about Nona's soul?
No, I'm talking about Gideon's soul. Look, we still don't really understand where Gideon's soul is. We last seen in the river, sort of, right? No,
it was last seen in occupying Harrow's body.
Yes, in the river.
But in the river and dying.
Yeah.
Oh no, we last saw it being resuscitated after the river, right? Remember there was a 1, 2, 3 shock. I can't remember what those are called. Defibrillated.
Mm-hmm.
The defibrillation scene, and that was the body in the tomb standing over her doing that. Anyway, maybe that was deemed to be the only way to save them. I don't know. I don't know how any of this makes sense. Maybe the whole plan has been for the body in the tomb to get to Gideon Nap's body via being in Harrow's body.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But this leads us to the next thing, which is, I think we had like indications of this, but it was like stated very clearly that like death equals power for Jod. Like he gets the fresh death. What we also know is that he has a nuke, which would equal mega power.
Mm-hmm.
And we know he's going to use it. So the question is to do what?
Do we know he's going to use it?
And the only thing that we're in the dream, we're in nuclear winter.
Yeah, but is that him or is that society?
I think you start with one nuke and then you get end of the world.
Yeah.
But I am tired.
Fantasy missiles.
Yeah, we're
Sorry.
we're missing the not center of the donut, but we're missing like the edges of the center, which is that we still don't understand how humanity gets into space. We don't understand how everyone gets into space and leaves Earth, because obviously that happens at some point, right? Because humanity is spread out and gets beyond the 9 houses before the 9 houses exist. Like there are
maybe.
No, there's humanity outside the control of the 9 houses, like in this story, thousands of years later.
That could still happen. Like, that could be, like, the trigger where, like, if people make it off Earth, he's like, fuck this shit. But the other thing here is that, like, I think if we think about what his whole motivation was here, yes, partly retribution, but also, like, the reason they did the whole cryo project in the first place was to save Earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what we're being told, is that, like, you were sick, and we're assuming that he's talking to Earth in some way, right? Like, that end of the world was happening, and it was because the Earth could no longer sustain people. Like, and then we have this theory that now he's talking to Alecto, who could be the spirit of the Earth. I don't know, maybe like he required getting Earth into a human form is the way to save it.
I was just thinking that, which is
I think it could be as simple as the part of the problem is population pressure. So if you can literally just decrease the population, and
Sure.
just put everybody on ice, literally, for long enough, then you
exactly
can,
agree with that,
then all
though.
of these other things and all of these other things can happen, and you're just like in a waiting game. Like you just ship
I don't think it's just population pressure. It's also the engineering, right?
Yeah,
You
but it's like
engineer
population
Earth for
pressure
capitalistic purposes to the point that Earth is no longer self-sustaining because capitalistic timelines are not
right. But then if you
planetary
move the
timelines.
population off, right, and you take the pressure off of needing any of those capitalistic things, right? Like if you can basically
just ditch
take,
Earth.
yeah, like just ditch
Ditch
or
Earth
like just
entirely.
move people and
To
like
a
take
rock.
the population down like to like 3 billion.
Sure.
Then you don't need all of this.
The only way that humanity should remain.
right, like you don't need all of this
Okay,
other
Thomas
stuff.
Swift.
You could still have sort of a thing, but then you could like maybe like basically take the pressure off of pollution and global climate change and all of this other stuff.
Remove the immediate symptoms.
That brought up a very interesting point, Brooke, which is just that, yeah, he could use the nuke or start a mutually assured destruction loop of getting everyone nuked after the rich people leave, or before, but it doesn't matter at this point, but he uses that to, I guess, put Earth into a human form and then heal it? Like, is that like kind of like, basically like you get the perfect lictor pairing and then you get the healing powers of being a lictor. And so, because we never see Alecto, it's never mentioned that like Alecto is sick, right? Or just like she's not quite human, but she seems to be perfectly healthy. And
You're
so,
talking about the person in the dream?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even just
that-
like what the other lictors have said,
sure. What they've said about AO.
She seems to be a little bit psychotic and have anger issues, but seems to be perfectly healthy. So is it as simple as we're going to use all this death energy to take the dying spirit of Earth, put it into a body, heal the body?
It's the price to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we know that like the bodies he loved are incorruptible. So like even if he nukes them, I wonder if the bodies of his disciples in the end up being fine.
Like
He can
cockroaches.
put spirits back into them, like cockroaches. Jesus Christ. And he can put spirits back into them, and that's how we end up with the houses.
Well, yeah, what is the price of the resurrection, right? That's the other thing that we're starting to slowly get towards is we know the resurrection costs him a lot. And yeah, there's...
How so?
It's when they were talking about the bodies to resurrect the 9 houses in the beginning of Harrow, they always talk about the cost of resurrection. And
Oh, right.
is it simply he just used 10 billion people or whatever it is to resurrect his friends and the Earth, and that was just
There's
the
a lot of
cost?
people that
Yeah.
ended up getting saved, right? Like he talks, there's like a lot of people in his stash of
Yeah,
bodies
but
to
like
resurrect. it sounds
relative
like.
to 10 billion, it looks like it was like pared down to. I mean, it's
10,000?
low enough that they're having genetic diversity issues, right, on some of the houses. So
Well,
is
that's
it,
been 10,000 years of inbreeding.
which means it might have even been smaller populations to be. So I've just said, can you pare down 10? Is it we need to kill 10 million people to resurrect one? Right? Can you even with that would leave you with a side? God's a piece of shit, and so there's some. We're just waiting for where the psychotic mass murdering is inserted into this story, as opposed to when. We're looking for the where and the when, not the how. Or no.
Yep.
It's
Not
going
the
to
if.
Yeah, not the if. Yes, thank you.
Well, I guess we'll see if anything like that happens next time when John and Brooke get in one last duel in Nona the Ninth, chapters 22 and 23.
And if you, dear listener, are like Brooke and me, reading along for the first time, make sure you find our reading calendar on our website, frontline5th.podbean.com, or follow us on Instagram or TikTok. And to support us, you can buy merch or join our Patreon, all of which are linked in the show notes. If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends and give us a 5-star rating anywhere you can. And if you didn't like it, feel free to lie. Now head off to sleep, my baby necros. Mommy and Daddy have some deep spoilers to discuss.
Get in, losers. We're going speculating.
Act 5. We don't carry metaphors.
Warning. This portion of the podcast is 98% spoilers and like 2% snickering.
Seriously, we will spoil anything and everything in the series up through Nona the Ninth. If that's not what you want, turn back now. Well, hello.
Hello.
Before we get into the stuff that I have written down here, can we talk about what they were talking about with Nona and Harrow's body? So they were talking about how she had raised the sword two-handed, which is for us like a really solid red herring that's supposed to point towards Gideon, but instead points towards Alecto, right?
And there's no way they can know that.
Yeah, there's no way, which is great. Fabulous. But they talked about her getting this nosebleed. And I was thinking about that simply as the fact that Nona's body can't handle the knowledge that she has Alecto in her. And every time like Alecto starts to break through, Nona gets sicker and sicker. Do we think that's it? Or do we think there is residual Harrow brain magic happening?
I think it's residual Harrow brain magic and Tamsin being a troll to specifically push us that way.
Oh, it definitely is trying to push us towards thinking. So it cracked me up. They kept on being like, Gideon's body is empty. And I was like, is it? Oh, yes, sure. It is. It could be.
Sure. I know the same thing. I was like, is it empty? And I was like, oh, zip your lips.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know. You have no information. At the same time, you probably thought that Gideon's body was empty. And you're like, why the fuck are you bringing around a dead body?
Everything about this is, she's so twisty, that Tamsin. She's so twisty, girl.
Yeah, there's no way to know. There's no way. Anybody who's like, I clocked it, it's like, you did it.
You're like, sure.
You pick me. Go fuck yourself. Not really, I'm sorry.
No. But a little bit.
But a little bit.
All right, let's talk about Pyrrha, past and present. One of the things that I found really fascinating, I don't think I had clocked before, the degree to which P gets angry with John. Like, we're talking
Furious.
Scary angry. Yeah. And it makes me wonder if she carries that anger and distrust forever, because it seems like she has more retention than most of the other lictors in terms of her memories.
Bringing up Harry McClary. Why would Pyrrha know Harry McClary?
That's amazing. That is so fucking solid that she literally retains Earth memory.
This is one of the things, this plus disco plus like there's another thing that she says.
There's a moment when she says
G.
Oh,
G.
Yeah.
Are all of the things where we're like, she remembers and she's always remembered. And that was part of the problem with the process. And I think that it's likely that because she was always just kind of popping up and surfacing and like never had that much agency, like she had plenty of agency because obviously she's the one who started the whole bullshit with Wake. But that this kind of comes back to how, basically what am I trying to say? Gideon likely doesn't remember. Gideon isn't completely acknowledging why he's losing time, and he doesn't know what's going on most of the time. So Gideon always was kind of an NPC and a support figure, which I think it'll be really interesting if we learn that was not the case at all.
I would love to meet him one day because I feel like he is so thoroughly dismissed by John in these like flashback sequences. And it's such a shame because what he actually does, he's incredibly brave. He's incredibly loyal. He's also chill as hell. He's the one grilling on the Barbie. And he is also an engineer. Like he is smart. He's a super interesting person that everyone dismisses. And the fact that Pyrrha of Earth loved him and was dedicated to him tells you that he must have been fiery because she loves landmine people. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, but I'm with you. The Gideon that we meet is nothing. Is basically barely there. And I'm really excited. I just finished rereading more carefully, and I feel like I have more and more evidence that I'm excited to share with you over the course of the book that suggests that Pyrrha had to have been a necromancer. And I still maintain that doesn't mean Gideon wasn't one. But
right.
I think
it means they were fundamentally different than everybody else.
That's right. Yeah.
I think another reason that we don't see anything about Gideon is because I wonder if he is somebody that basically could have been picked instead of John.
Ooh, sorry. John would hate that. John would hate
and so that.
That
is why he is initially, that's why he's essentially an NPC in John's backstory and a like footnote in everything and kind of like emotionally and intellectually neutered when he's brought back.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. That like there's no reason that John has to give them their full facilities, let alone. I mean, we know he's not giving full memory.
Well, he had to rebuild Gideon from an arm, right? And so he could do anything he wanted. He rebuilt his brain. He could rebuild it any way he wanted.
And the other thing that I keep thinking about in these flashbacks, so we don't have a ton of Christabel in this one, but I've been thinking about the degree to which John undermines and undersells Christabel and how smart she is. She's a really interesting, weird character. She's like very complicated. She's also she's super intense with her willingness to just do crazy shit like kill herself for the cause, but she also is the one who keeps telling him that he's missing something. And I think he hates knowing that other people saw something that he didn't, or could have been something that he wasn't. I think he has to retell their story.
Everybody else does say like she was just dumb as a box of rocks, right?
Which maybe means that he did the same thing that you're saying he maybe did to Gideon with her.
Died before he does like the catching everybody's souls thing.
That's true. So maybe she had no soul.
So does Gideon.
True. Yeah.
And we don't ever really hear that much about Ulysses and Titania. So it could be something where he could grab their souls and he can put it back in there, but he has maybe like more control or
more was leached away in the interim before he found them.
Yes.
Yeah. I really like that a lot. That seems really reasonable. But it also, yeah. And I don't think he minds because I think he likes people who don't undermine him and who are not better than him. Pyrrha is a weird one. I think Pyrrha really keeps her cards close to her chest. It is truly not clear to me what her goal was here. Why do you think she went to Ianthe in the first place? Like, how did she end up in the barracks there?
I think that she's hoping that that the shuttle isn't like what she's expecting. I think it's either that or like she knew that Gideon's body was there and she's like, that's worth taking all the risks to get Gideon's body and then I can figure out a way off the planet.
But unwilling to call in backup or make a plan or go in with Camilla. Like she does this on her own.
Well, and I think it might go back to like what Camilla said, which is the only reason she would do that was if she didn't have a choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she might have been like snooping around trying to see if she could sneak in and get the body. And then she essentially kind of gets caught. And she was like, what do you mean caught? I meant to get here.
That I believe entirely. That feels very appropriate for her. I think the other thing I wanted to ask is who knows that Gideon's body is still a person with a soul? Like, Corona clearly doesn't. Pal and Cam don't. What do we think Pyrrha knows or suspects? Do we just think she wants that body either to get into the lock tomb or because she thinks that kind of pneumatic reversion or whatever is going to happen to Nona? Do you think she has...
I think that she's surprised. I think she's surprised, but not... Like, maybe it's disappointed, but not surprised, right? Yeah. Like, she wasn't totally expecting Gideon's soul to be there, but she also might have, like, a little bit of an inkling.
Well, and certainly she's familiar with things not being all the way dead or having surprising inner souls that pop up on occasion.
And I think she is hoping that even if it is Nona, even if it is Alecto that is Nona, that some part is Gideon that's just being masked, right? That maybe Gideon and Harrow are doing this kind of like bobbing thing where they're just kind of in the background the way that she was.
Yeah.
And maybe she can rescue them by giving them a body.
Which makes some sense. Yeah. All right. I like that a lot. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and Brooke brought this up a little bit, was John's powers, because his powers go so far beyond necromancy, right? So there's the bone parthenogenesis problem. And then he also is like raising landforms, et cetera, in the dream. We could, if the dream is kind of in the river or adjacent to the river, then maybe you can dismiss that as building in the river. But it is interesting that on Earth he was able to do quite the scale of what he was able to do. And we know that's via Earth. It predates him actually kind of lictoring Earth, but Earth is the one lending him his powers. But some of what he does seems like it's not even necromancy. It just is like insane Earth chemistry. But maybe the Earth's body itself is a body that one can manipulate, right? Like if you can manipulate bones, then you should be able to manipulate landforms in a dying Earth.
Yeah, I think that like my headcanon is that it's not, that none of this is actually magic. It's just a different form of like energy or rules, which is like what the book basically presents it as, is like you have people studying this and like figuring out the theorems and et cetera, et cetera.
You're still operating under the bounds of physics.
Yeah. Like it is physics, but maybe it's like a form of like, I understand nothing about physics, especially like things like quantum physics and like string theory and like whatever all the other thing is. But like maybe it's just basically the next level up where you can do this type of stuff. Like some of the, like the whole quantum computing thing where, stuff happens instantaneously, even if it's light years away kind of thing.
Nope. I'm with you. All right. We already talked about these two. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to bring up one thing that I think gets kind of like lost in the morass, but is really, really interesting. So when Cam asks We Suffer for a shuttle, We Suffer says that they can have a shuttle as long as they carry a package off-world for BOE to anywhere away from her. Cam says, we don't carry metaphors. I presume the package is AIM and Noodle, obviously.
Yep.
I also just love the idea of we don't carry metaphors when everything about what AIM is, what the angel is a metaphor. And it gives me great joy. She doesn't know that's what it is, but I think she's dead on that it is a metaphor that they're asked to carry.
Well, and the thing is like this is after he has encountered AIM. So I think that I don't think like it's just like a flip thing to be like, you have to tell me exactly what's going on. I'm not going to carry just a metaphor, like some whatever. I think that it's a little bit like, I don't want AIM. Like, okay. I think I know what you're talking about, and I don't want.
It's actually,
I don't want to carry a metaphor.
Okay, so it's not an irony that she says this. It's targeted that like we don't carry metaphors. We need to know what actually is happening and what the value is of this and what it means to BOE and what it means to the larger world. I like that a lot. And
rather than just saying like you need to, the package is BOE or whatever.
Yeah,
right. Because isn't that what she says? And then she says we don't carry metaphors.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's super interesting. I can't wait to find out what's going on with AIM. I think that's going to be the most fun reveal of the whole series. Or the most disappointing.
I was like, it's either going to be the most fun or it's going to be the biggest troll. And like, I don't feel like there's any place in between,
No. Sometimes she manages to pull off both simultaneously though. So, girl can hope.
Yeah.
It's going to be fine, everyone. Don't be afraid. Alecto's coming. Alecto's coming.
Don't lose hope.
Act 6. See you next time, my little nunlets. Well, it looks like we've got to go put on our Nona Gessimus getup, but we'll be back next week to run through Nona the Ninth Chapters 22 and 23. If you want to follow along with us, our reading calendar is available on our website at frontline5th.podbean.com, and you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok, which are linked in the show notes. If you enjoyed this podcast, please tell your friends and give us a 5-star rating anywhere you can. And of course, if you didn't enjoy the podcast, feel free to lie. We have a Patreon, which you can join for access to bonus content every month. You can become a patron, and they all have Iris dye and black clothing available at the drop of a hat at patreon.com/frontline5th. And you can check out our merch at our Redbubble store linked in the show notes. Finally, if you have any fun theories you'd like to share with us, feel free to email us at frontline5th@gmail.com. And with that, I'll just remind you not to unlock any tombs or enter any doors without permission because, ghosts. Bye!
Frontline Fifth is a Locked Tomb podcast conceived by Maria Adamako and starring Maria Adamako, Hannah Grunwald, Brooke Anderson, and John Bryan. Our cover art was designed and created by Maria Adamako, who also edited this episode. Our fabulous music was composed and recorded by Blake Anderson. Sonia Grunwald designs our killer merch. Hot. Gorgeous. The Locked Tomb series is a completely dope-ass book series by Tamsin Muir, who does not know we exist and is in no way affiliated with this podcast.